Hey there Starseekers, hope you're all having a fine day, and welcome back once more to the channel, where today I'm bringing you another SOS review, this time for a game called Bloody Bunny. Based on the animated web series Bloody Bunny The First Blood by Two Spot Studio, the game takes the dark humour and fast-paced action of the web series and puts the player in control of Bloody Bunny as she embarks upon a mission of revenge against her creator, who has also double-stamped his ticket to hell by kidnapping her little sister MuMu. Featuring hack and slash combat similar to the Lollipop Chainsaw or Deadpool games, Bloody Bunny has plenty of action to offer to fans of the genre, but how does it hold up on the Nintendo Switch, and is it worth dropping the cash on, even considering its rather low asking price? In this review I'll be covering everything the game has to offer, so pop that kettle on, grab yourself a pack of hobnobs, and let's get started. So Bloody Bunny begins with an awesome little cutscene which introduces us to our character and the world of Bloody Bunny. In this world, humanity is nigh extinct, with the majority of humans having been turned into dolls by a nameless organisation. In the opening cutscene, we see our character undergoing the same treatment after failing to rescue her sister, after which she awakens trapped in the body of a plush bunny doll before breaking out of a container. Now following this we take control of Bunny and we're taken through a short tutorial level where we're introduced to the different combat mechanics and each of the game's 4 weapons which aid us in different ways. Firstly, we have a sword, which acts as our primary weapon with which we can perform attacks with the Y button, and we can also perform special attacks by hitting X in combination with either the R button or whilst jumping using the B button. The other 3 weapons can't be equipped as primary weapons, but we're able to switch between them using the D-pad, and each comes with its own set of special attacks. Firstly, we have a hammer which can be used to break shielded enemies' defences and knock back enemies with its heavy swings. Next we have a boomerang which can be used to hit multiple opponents at once, and finally we have a set of throwing knives which give you a ranged attack, enabling you to hit enemies at a distance. On the defensive side of things, we're able to perform a short dodge manoeuvre which provides us with a few iframes, and dodging an enemy just as it attacks will allow you to counter-attack for some decent damage. Now in general, combat is quite fluid and overall it's pretty enjoyable, but I rarely had the need to use the secondary weapons, as your primary weapon packs more than enough punch thanks to one very important gameplay mechanic known as Rampage. As you attack and defeat enemies, you'll fill up your blue Rampage meter seen in the top left corner, and once this is full you can then activate Rampage mode, which drastically increases the damage and speed of your attacks. Furthermore, when the enemies are on low health, you're able to perform finishes on them, which not only restores a portion of your health, it also fills more of your Rampage meter and tops it up a little if Rampage is already active. Now between each level, you're able to spend souls earned from killing enemies to upgrade each of your weapons, increasing the damage output, and unlock new abilities for weapons, each of which can be upgraded multiple times. These are all quite useful and add a little bit of variety to combat, but I found that they really didn't have much of an impact on the game, as by pumping all of my points into the passive skills, which increase your maximum health, extend the duration of Rampage, and increase the healing and Rampage gain from special moves, I was able to breeze through most levels and only really encountered issues when it came to boss fights. Now Bloody Bunny contains a total of 7 levels for you to hack and slash your way through. Your mission of revenge sees you travelling to a number of different locations, and there's some good variety to them, with the majority of levels featuring their own unique environments and challenges. These range from the industrial looking factories where the dolls like Bunny are created, and train carriages which feature some beautiful Japanese decor, to a place called Dizzyland, a theme park level shamelessly inspired by a famous man and mouse duo. Overall, I enjoyed the designs of each level, apart from a few jumping sections, as I found the collision detection on platforms could be a bit finicky at times. Luckily, there are not that many areas in the game which require precision jumping, and the few of them that there are usually just optional side areas which contain cup noodle pickups which automatically restore your health to full when it's depleted, or secret packages which unlock new images in the game's gallery. Now as you work your way through the game's levels, each one usually sees you fighting your way through a bunch of smaller minions in arena style battles, where you usually face several waves of enemies and aren't able to move on until you've defeated them all. These enemies generally come in two different flavours, those being melee and ranged enemies, and while you initially face your standard cannon fodder which can be smashed up in only a few hits, as you get further into the game you'll encounter new more powerful variants of them, including things like flying enemies, dual wielding ninja like enemies, and big hulking roid heads who take one hell of a beating. In all, I enjoyed these standard wave encounters, though it's near impossible to dodge attacks from large groups of enemies, and the game's lock-on mechanic is pretty useless against them, so I ended up ditching it after the first couple of levels and only really used it against bosses. Now speaking of bosses, most levels feature one sub-boss and one main boss, and there's also some good variety when it comes to these encounters. Each boss has its own moveset for you to contend with, which changes when you reduce the health below a certain threshold, and these fights aren't always just straight up one-on-one fights, as some of them feature quick time events or additional enemies between boss phases. Now to begin with, I was really enjoying the boss fights. The first one you face is pretty challenging before you've gained a few upgrades, and after that they're all reasonably easy so long as you dodge and counterattack when you can. But then there's a huge spike in difficulty once you get to the kitty boss, and for me this fight highlights a number of different issues with the game. First and foremost are the character recovery dynamics after you've been knocked down. Sometimes you're able to perform a dash maneuver to quickly get back onto your feet and out of the way of other attacks, but you frequently get stuck in a slower animation which locks out your controls for a few seconds, and when this occurs, Kitty is able to easily stun lock you with a barrage of rapid attacks, and this issue is not just confined to this boss fight. The final couple of boss battles in the game got very frustrating for me, as unlike the early bosses, there are no warnings given when they're about to attack, and their attacks come so quickly and so frequently that it's almost impossible to get a hit in without taking one yourself. The second issue that boss fights highlight are the camera and lock-on mechanics. I frequently had it where I was locked onto the boss, but then attacking a minion would swap my lock onto it, pulling my camera away from the boss, which would then make it much harder for me to see when the boss attacks were incoming. The camera also posed a few issues in general gameplay, especially in things like the Mr. K train chase, where you're having to manipulate it to see round stacks of barrels, but the walls keep pushing it in close to you. Now content wise, I felt Bloody Bunny had a decent amount to offer for the price, and the game's story mode will likely take you between 5 and 8 hours to complete depending on how hard you find it. It's worth noting though that there aren't actually any difficulty settings in the game, so if you get stuck on the kitty boss like I did, then your only real options are to either persevere or simply give up in a fit of rage. In addition to the game's story mode, there's also an endless mode, which is not quite endless, but it does offer a gauntlet of 50 levels for you to fight through one after another. So overall I thought Bloody Bunny was a great little hack and slash game. It offered some fast paced button mashing action when working your way through stages, but there was a decent amount of strategy required to overcome the more challenging bosses. In spite of the game having some great looking visuals, I was actually very surprised to find that they didn't cause any frame rate issues on the Switch, and I really enjoyed the awesome little web series cutscenes which play out between levels. On the audio side, the game's sound effects are decent, if not a little generic, and Bloody Bunny also has a great soundtrack, which blends a bit of heavy metal and high tempo electronica to really get you in the ass kicking mood. When it comes to a rating, I'm going to be giving Bloody Bunny the game 4 out of 5 stars. If you're a gamer who really enjoys the simplicity of hack and slash games and don't mind a bit of cuteness mixed with your gore, then I highly recommend giving Bloody Bunny a look. Just be aware that the game does become very challenging in the later levels, so prepare yourself for a spot of rage if, like me, you're prone to losing your rag when things get a little tough. Bloody Bunny is available exclusively on the Nintendo Switch, and you can pick it up from the UK Switch eShop for £9.99 or from the US eShop for $9.99. And that about does it for this SOS review of Bloody Bunny on the Nintendo Switch. Don't forget to drop this video a like if it helped you out, let me know your thoughts on the game and the review in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel as I upload new Nintendo Switch reviews and content every few days. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.